Well, I vote for whatever you guys want. So hello and welcome to Loki's Learning Lessons with your host, Loki. I am the one who learns lessons. If this is your first time joining us, hello. If this is your second time joining us, what's up? Third time joining us, stop following me around, you creep. Anyway, so topics of education I can educate you guys on are as follows. Lord of the Rings lore, ethics, Fallout lore, Halo lore, IT, computer stuff, history, debate, Dark Souls lore, public speaking, memes, accents, film, cinematography, acting, ranting, American politics, world politics, writing, comedy, and anything y'all want to talk about. Comrade Deus wants to talk about public speaking. I can talk about public speaking as I speak publicly a lot. This is, in fact, a form of public speaking. Very minor form, but still a form of. What specifically do you want to public speaking as a general, or like want me to rant about it, or is there a specific portion of it you want me to talk about? Because I can give you tips and tricks on how to speak publicly, and things people do, and things that will help you speak publicly, or I could just like rant about it for an amount of time until I get bored. Sure, give tips and tricks. So, me in the United States military, so little backstory first. All the jobs I've ever had were always customer service in a way. I worked at McDonald's as the cashier for 2 years. I work with mentally disabled people and was their like friend and like cooked and cleaned, did their meds and stuff, and I would talk to them, talk to their families, and help them live a normal life. And in the military, I do customer service support for like fixing computers and stuff. So all the jobs I've had were customer service. And because of that, I'm very comfortable talking with the random strangers in the sense of a business type relationship, you know? So the number one tip I can give to you is practice. With practice makes perfect. The more you speak out in public, the more you talk with people, the easier it becomes. And I've also done plays and like videos and stuff like that, and because I've done all this stuff throughout my life, I'm very comfortable in the spotlight. Not being said, I still get super nervous like all the time, but yeah, none of them things are just practice. But the thing about public speaking in particular is you want people to understand what you are saying. So when you speak publicly, even also when you're on the stage acting, you have to enunciate. You speak kind of slower. You leave pauses between words when you want to emphasize things. And if you're reading from a script, the key is to not stare at the script, stare down. You want to make eye contact with the audience. You want to like make head motions. You can use your hands. You don't want to stand there like a statue and be, in 1933, the Nazis invaded Poland. You don't want to be like that, even though that's a false fact. I just told you. Is that a false fact? I don't know. I wouldn't say you should memorize the script. You should definitely be familiar with it. So, for example, last year, in the military, we have this thing called POW MIA, Prisoners of War and Missing in Action. These are the people who we are either prisoners of war currently, or were prisoners of war during Korea, Vietnam, World War II, all those different conflicts we had, and we never got them back, or they just went missing and we don't know where they are. And in the military, those are our greatest heroes because they gave the ultimate sacrifice, and their families still don't have, recollection of their loved one. They don't know what the fuck happened, and those are the people we honor. That's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, like that. If you know what that is, that's how like highly coveted, like we honor those people. So, and saying that, I was the MC for the ceremony of POW MIA. So it was me, 1 year in the Air Force, give or take. Yeah, 1.5 years in the Air Force. Standing up in front of an entire room full of commanders, stars, generals, leadership, sergeants, my friends, stuff like that. And me, a lowly little boy, having this super important job of making sure this situation and this ceremony goes without a hitch, because I fuck something up, it's going to look really bad. So you bet your hindquarters, I was super nervous. I read that script over and over again, probably 100 times. I read it out loud to myself, like 50. I made sure everything was enunciating correctly. I knew how to pronounce words. I knew the correct timings for stuff, because with me saying stuff, I was describing something that was happening. The honor guard will come out and they'll do a very specific ceremony. They'll have like a white cloth around the table. They have the single slice of lemon on the plate, a whole bunch of stuff like that. It's a very intricate thing, and I had to narrate that. So I had to get the timing down as well. So in saying that, practice does make perfect, obviously, but also if you're always worrying about it, you're going to mess up a lot more. So I was super nervous the whole time, but as soon as I started, I went, if I fuck up, I fuck up. I keep going. And that's the mindset you have to have. Practice and chill is what I would say, yes. So in saying that, I didn't memorize the script at all. I was familiar with it enough so I can still make eye contact and look around the room, but when I would take my breaths, I would look at my sheet, look up, and continue what I was saying, and check down, look up, make sure I'm always taking quick glances at it to make sure I'm on track, stuff like that. Also, I highlighted important names. I annotated on the sheet itself how to pronounce words, because I was introducing and welcoming special guests. So we had some German people. We had some people from all in Europe, a bunch of people. We had the mayor of the town we were in. We had some high-ranking officials from the big Air Force, we call it. And their names are always super fucking hard. Like, guy's name was like Zamamid, spelled with a Q. It's like, what the fuck? That's the hardest thing, also. Public speaking is saying names. It's trying to figure out how to say that name. Because it's not like, my name's Chris. It's hard to fuck that up. But if your name is like of Hispanic or Asian descent, even like Serbian descent, I don't know how to roll R's, so I can't say anything in Scottish, stuff like that. So knowing how to say things, pronunciation's key. Pronunciations, enunciations, also volume and pace, also two very important things. But this is more to acting on a stage. Give me a Slavic name, and I'll tell you if I can read it first try. So the thing about pacing is you want to be slow enough so people can understand you, but you don't want to be so slow that people think it's boring, Because if I spoke like this the entire time, that would be pretty annoying, But also, I don't want to speak like this, because if I'm speaking like this, you can't really understand what I'm saying, So you got to find that good middle ground of, I'm speaking comfortably to my audience, I am reading what I'm supposed to read, I'm making my points, and I'm being very punctual with certain annotations in the script. Yes. The worst thing about listening to anybody speak is when and today's lesson is going to be about scientific notation. So scientific notation is the process of blah, 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 blah. That's super boring and super bland. You want to have some energy to it. You want to present it in a way that you would enjoy listening to it. Yes, that's extremely why teachers are so boring, is because when they're reading stuff, they're reading what's straight written. They're not paraphrasing stuff. They're not having energy to it. So when I'm teaching about a topic I enjoy, I'm very into it. I'm very like this. My mind's jumping around all over the place, which is kind of bad. Also, I speak very fast, like you could tell I just was, which is an issue, especially in acting. Public speaking and acting are very well connected, so I'm going to keep flip-flopping on the two topics. Also, is that Dagon? Or is that Dragon? Dagon? Yeah, that's right, Dagon. R silent. See, I knew that. Dagon. See, it's Dagon. I knew it. Dragon. See? But fast, not like dragon. What does that mean? Dragon. So to you, it's super simple because it's your language. Dragon. That's what I said. But to me, you could see the struggle I have. So knowing how to say stuff, and also you would write out names phonetically. for English at least. Put the accent on the second A. Is it long A or short A? A or eh? Dra. Long A. A. A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y. Phonetics. English is a weird language. Anyway, I'm going to give up trying to pronounce that word. Because I can't. That's why I said dragon. 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 I don't know. Stop bullying me. So anyway, cadence, speech, very important. So when I'm acting as a character, or even on the stage speaking, an issue I have is I talk too fast because I'm anticipating what I'm going to say, and that makes me rush through it. So a good way to prevent yourself from doing that is, honestly, if you have a microphone, turn on feedback so you can hear what you sound like, and then read what you're going to read. You will hear your own voice in your head, and that'll slow you down. It's a really good way to help you know what the cadence should be and know how you're sounding and how you can improve or take it back a little bit. Also, just recording yourself speaking and listening back to it is a good way to pick out flaws in your speech patterns. So what did I say? I forgot already. Knowing the script, relaxing, cadence, tone, punctuation of certain important things. So this is more to, it's public speaking still, but it's also good for debating and good for just trying to prove a point. Is when you accent the right words, because there's a difference between saying guns kill 50 people a year, then guns kill 50 people a year, or guns kill 50 people a year. If you put emphasis on certain words in the sentence, it changes the meaning. It changes how it sounds to the audience. Yes. Or like the phrase is one of the sentences you can change the word and change every single word in it and changes the meaning of the sentence is, I never said I loved him. 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 You get what I'm saying? So putting emphasis on certain words and changing how you say those words pervades different emotions to the audience and makes them feel a certain way. Politics is 100%. It's 100%. It's a cult of personality. If you are a good public speaker and have a good charismatic personality, you can be good in politics. That's all that matters. You don't have to know what the fuck you're doing. You just got to know how to pretend to. And that's what a majority of politicians do. Sadly. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, so if I'm being honest, he does have he has something. Like, he's somewhat charismatic to a degree, like as a meme or as like a joke. But compared to everyone else he was running against, it wasn't a competition, so. There's a phone in my office that can call him. I know where one of those phones are. I can straight up call the president if I wanted to. Yeah. Would I do that? Yep. I have a phone that can call anybody in like higher echelon. If I do that, I'm gonna be shot. I'm gonna lose my job. He's not in the upper echelon of government at the moment. If he was still like vice president, maybe. It's like, hey, Mr. Trump, the Honorable Donald Trump is what I have to call him. Is his official title, the Honorable Donald Trump, or the President? One of those two. My thoughts on the president do not reflect the thoughts and values of the Air Force. As a public service announcement from Loki. So, also, speaking of the President of America, the United States of the, another important thing about public speaking is playing to your audience. If you know what your audience wants and you know what they're there for, you can definitely play into it and give them what they want. Also, did this phone go off? Am I crazy? What's going on? Hold on. Okay, 1 second. Boop boop. I'm on call technically, so if my phone starts ringing, I have to answer it because people need shit done. The president doesn't have any power. So if you talk about the president, he knows what his audience is. He knows his audience are working class Americans is his main voter base, and he knows what buzzwords and what things he can push to get them on their side. They can like communism, socialism, crooked Hillary, stuff like that. We had the best plan. The best people. It's a great work. We love it. I can't do a good Trump impression, sadly. I think that's all I can really think about for public speaking tips and tricks. Knowing your audience, knowing how to punctuate, cadence, enunciation, pronunciation, speed, tone, all those things. So, and like honestly, public speaking is a form of acting. Is an art form to a degree. If you know how to speak publicly, you can really do. Our definition of socialism is anything left of Medicare. Like, Trump doesn't know what socialism really is. I don't think it's going to be the socialists who form a revolution. I think it's going to be the other end, honestly. They're going to form one in defense or some shit. America and social programs. FDR was the greatest president, and he had the most social programs. Coincidence? I think not. Also, World War II and the Great Depression, but I mean, Bernie is the most left popular person. Also, what do you know about the democracy in quotation marks in Japan? So I know General MacArthur set it up after World War II for rebuilding purposes. I know the prime minister is their head official. I know the emperor still is a figurehead, and they still revere him as the emperor. I think I don't know like specifics about their government types, or if they have a two-party system, or they have two houses like we do. But I think they would, because America likes to copy ours and paste it wherever the fuck it goes. I know there was a communist guy who got assassinated in Japan. I remember that one. The dude, he was giving a speech, and the dude ran on stage with like a katana and just stabbed him. He said, "Death to commies" in his Japan nation. I couldn't tell you his name, though, but I know of him. But I don't know much about the Japanese political system. I probably should, as it's... Korea's democratic, right? South Korea. I wonder if Korea and Japan's... I wonder if Korea and Japan are similar in their structure. I would assume so, being America and our allies set it up for them and fought for it. Well, fought for the Korean one, set up Japanese one. Japan have only one party ever since democracy was reestablished. One party or one coalition? Because those are two different things. Because a coalition is a group of parties. I mean, if they do have one party in power, that's still technically democracy. If they keep being voted for, and there are other options to vote for. It's not communism because that one party does not control all aspects of the state. Well, of course they're going to elect the same people because they were their leaders up until that point. It's not like... So the key difference between like Nazi Germany and imperialist Japan is the world doesn't think imperialist Japan was a monster. So like Korea, China definitely think that, but the rest of the world, not really. Like, they teach about the rape of Nanking, and it was bad. But besides that, Japan is looked at as... Japan in World War II is looked at the other guy. Nazi is the real big bad guy. Japan is the other. Even though they did a lot of bad stuff in Japan in World War II and still deny it to this day. I think also because they deny it. There's another key aspect is the Japanese people might not even know they did it. Like, honestly. They might think, oh, this was just... these events were exaggerated to a degree. You know? I don't know. I don't live in Japan. I don't know their teaching system. But it wouldn't surprise me if it is underplayed. Like every bad thing America's ever done in the American education system. But we only did that stuff to Native Americans, so that doesn't count. Most non-German Axis nations cover the war crimes. Like, I don't know. What are the other... Italy? The Germans tried to, and then the treaty said no. I mean, can you prove they did it, or did the Nazis just do it in their country? Can you place the blame solely on them, or can they say no, it was the Nazis doing it for us? Nazis were... How far do you have to go to be disgusted by the Nazis? So, occupied Greece in World War II. So, this is in reference to a comment I made the other day. Is Churchill said, treat Greece like an occupied nation. Child death camps, Loki. Yikes. Yakaronis and cheese. So, in the documentary I was watching, it was about the Western... It's about misconceptions of World War II, essentially. It was misconceptions of the American history. And I was talking about FDR, Stalin, and Churchill, especially the Yalta Conference, and how FDR and Russia made secret agreements with each other, and Churchill and everyone's making secret deals with everybody. And in accordance with Greece, the Greek partisans were like a communism... Were communist-backed, partisan. They were commies, quote unquote, but they were different commies than Stalin was. So Stalin wouldn't give them any support. So when the Allies freed Greece from the Nazi and Italian coalition in the area, they treated it as a occupy a nation where the British troops were there to keep the peace, but in reality they were there to keep the democratically elected people safe from the communist uprising and the communist partisans that were fighting. Yeah, it was 100% just stopping the USSR from getting a bigger sphere, because that was Churchill's biggest fear. Yeah. So the agreement was between Churchill and Stalin. Churchill said, I want 90% of Greece, and you can have 90% of Romania, or something like that. There was a percentage sheet of, yeah, that was close. There's a percentage sheet of Eastern Bloc nations of, this is how much influence you'll have after the war, this is how much I'll have after the war. And Churchill wanted Greece to protect his shipping lines in the Mediterranean, and that's really it. The rest of it was basically free Stalin. Here you go. This is all yours. And surprisingly, Stalin stuck to that agreement rigidly. Like, he basically didn't do anything in Greece to a degree, and he just moved into the Eastern Bloc nations. Like, Stalin was a good guy in the terms of agreements with his allies. Have you heard the quote, send us wheat or send us coffins? I mean, that stands... I know it's from World War II. What it's from exactly, I'm not sure. I'm just going to assume it's about the Nazi occupation of Greece. Based on that is the topic of conversation. Yeah. So, ironically enough, World War II is probably like an aspect of time I'm very not knowledgeable on. I know big picture stuff, but like specifics, I'm like, eh. But I'm with the like all history. I'm like, I know really big picture stuff, and I know like some niche information, but Stalin and Churchill, percents of after war. One of this will find the picture I'm looking for. Percentages agreement is the name of what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can find the actual picture. So I'll send this picture in chat and see if you can read it. So it's hard to read, but I'll read it to you. It says at the top, it says Romania, Russia 90%. Say the states? Question mark. The Allies? I don't know. Russia 90%, Churchill 10%, Greece and something 90% to the Allies, 10% to Russia. Yugoslavia and Hungary split 50-50, and whatever that bottom one is, 75% to the Ruskies, the rest to whatever. I wish I could read cursive. Oh my god, this is so hard to read. But anyway, this was them splitting up the post-war to... Oh my god, I don't want the fucking... Oh, that goddamn video. Here we go. I'm uploading the next video. There it is. Yeah, Bulgaria. Those nations we don't care about in the Eastern Bloc. Essentially, the only thing Churchill really cared about was protecting his shipping lines in the Mediterranean, because Churchill still wanted to maintain his empire after the war, or try it, keep it as hard as we could. So he wanted Greece, he wanted Bulgaria, because that were close to those lines, and then the rest up to Stalin. However, Churchill knew, to a degree, and Churchill, he hated commies. He hated communism. Like, staunchly, he was very anti-commie. And he knew when the Russians moved into an area, they wouldn't leave. So, one of the plans for D-Day was to land on the eastern side of Italy, on the Yugoslavian border, and go up, straight up to Berlin, and cut the Russians off before they got too deep into mainland Europe. But Russia, for the past 3-4 years, have been begging the Allies to open up a second front because he's fighting the Nazis alone, basically, in his eastern front, and he's winning currently. And as soon as he starts to win, that's when the Allies D-Day land and open up that second front that Stalin's been wanting ever since the war started. And FDR and Churchill both promised, by the year's out, we'll get that second front for you. Never happened. After 3 years, he finally got one. Hey, my Loki's learning lessons have been updated. I'll put a link after this one. So yeah, that's all I really know about the Grecian struggle of World War II, is that for a lot of these countries, their fates were decided for them, especially the Middle East. That's after World War One, more so. Like the fates of these people were decided by three people: Stalin, FDR, Churchill. All of the Eastern Bloc nations, post-war Germany, the Mediterranean countries, the Middle East, all these countries were divvied up and set to who's going to rule who by people who weren't even them. And you can see how well that turned out for most of them. The only people who didn't, yeah, and Israel. Yeah, let's put the Jews in the middle of the Muslim world. That's great. Let's uproot an entire Palestinian people. Nothing bad's gonna happen there. Great ideas, everyone. Like Western Germany was the only nation to to come out good, I guess. Oh, I guess the Balkans were okay until Yugoslavia collapsed and communism fell. But Western Germany is fine, and when they came together, it was peaceful to a degree. Eastern Germany till this day is still not as developed infrastructurally and industrially as Western Europe. Yeah, but after the Soviet bloc fell and Iron Curtain was destroyed, those nations were pretty okay. They're not too bad to a degree. I've never been to Poland. I've never been to any of these countries, but I haven't heard anything too bad. All I know is they still hate gay people, and they're still really religious. And now Russia has the forever President Putin, so, same shit, different year. I am voting in the next election. American soldiers can vote even if they're overseas. Even if we're deployed, we have that ability. Are you an American citizen, Cheryl? Do you have the right to vote? You should vote. Because if you don't vote, that's a vote for the guy you don't want. I'm voting for Joe Biden. How's my video already copyright claimed? There's not even music in it. Oh yeah, there is. I played fucking some relaxing classical music or some shit. Whatever. It's not like I'm making money off these or getting views. Yeah, so yeah, I'm voting for Joe Biden. Um, I don't like I don't like the current president. I don't agree with his policies or his leadership style. Would I want to vote if it was if I had to vote between Joe Biden and anyone else? I'd probably vote for anyone else. But just like the last election, I don't like either candidate, but I don't like one of them more. So I'm voting for the lesser of two evils in my mind. But if everyone does that, that's not a good thing, honestly. What do I think about Poland gaining historically German land after World War II? I don't fucking care about you stupid European heritage bullshit. So I mean, if you look at Polish Lithuania, they owned a shit ton of Russia in the Eastern Bloc and German land before Germany existed as a nation. If you look even further, the Roman Empire owned most of Germany. So why doesn't it go to the Italians after World War II? They had it first, or give it back to the fucking tribal people. Give Burgundy back to, not Burgundy. Is it Burgundy? Where's that place in France that the England owned for a while? Is that Burgundy? That tip. Normandy. Yeah, I was close. Give Normandy back to the UK. Give England back to the French because it was a French dude who conquered it. It's all retrospect. It's all like me. That's what I say. Give Iberia back to the Muslims. Uninquisition Spain. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, Germany lost World War II, so they lost land. That's what happens. I mean, they also. I mean, and after World War One, Germany lost. Germany and Russia both lost land to Poland, I think. Maybe. R.I.P. Prussia will be missed. Ugh. What is my heritage? So my last name is the second most popular name in Ireland, so I'm assuming Irish. Do I actually know? No. Do I care? Also no. Like I'm a white American. I'm from Western Europe. That's basically it. White American. Irish, maybe a little bit German, probably. I know on my stepdad's side, he's German, so that doesn't mean nothing for me. But on draft Dodgers, depends on the Dodger. I mean, if we're talking about Vietnam War, was not a very righteous war to begin with. So if you want to dodge that draft because you have morally objected to it, go ahead. But if you do that, you're not going to be someone I would go to for military questions or advice on military things or opinion on the military because you skipped out on your duty as an American citizen to do that. We're talking about like people of political significance who dodged the draft in the past, and they try to play to the military voter. Fuck you. Is my opinion on dash drivers. But if you're dodging the draft because you don't want to die for a stupid cause in the jungle for people you don't care about, that makes sense. If you're if you're Cassius Clay who converts to Islam to do it, whatever it takes to get out of it. Yep. Don't want to die for the other companies. Operation Dragoon. Let me just Google Operation Dragoon real fast. Where is this? Is this? This was on the coast of. The southeastern coast, right? Like next to Italy, where Italy is. I mean, opening up multiple fronts is a good thing. I don't know what if I think it was worth it or not. Did we secure a beachhead and open up a third front for the Nazis to fight, or was it a failed landing, or was it just a distraction for D-Day itself? I mean, in the end, D-Day was successful, and we got into mainland Europe. That's good. I think it was worth it. Keck, he says, but I don't know everything about it, so I could say I think it was worth it when 100,000 people died or some shit. I ain't be knowing nothing about no one. I'm awake. Like I've said in the past, I don't really care about the military battles of World War II to a degree. I care more about the political environment these times created. Like I did a report on Vichy France. How is that even a question? Lord of the Rings, 100%. Easy. No one is going to be like, oh, Wheel of Time is better. I'm like, fuck you, Lord of the Rings. my pioneering science fiction time travel bullshit versus the Virgin Wheel of Time versus the Chad Lord of the Rings. There, I said it. Virgin language in the world drill versus Chad Lord of the Rings. Have you seen the advanced version of that meme, where it's Virgin, Chad, Thad. There's a fourth one that's even like a bigger dude with more muscles. I don't know. There's like just continuing tiers of Chadness, like more muscles and bigger hair, and like it's like a fucking Dragon Ball Z power level. What are some particularly bad books you have read? I don't think I've read any bad books. I think all the books I've read are ones I wanted to read, so I enjoyed them particularly. And I never read any book that was assigned to me in school unless I enjoyed it. So, I still think, fucking, what's that book called? Flapper Error America. The Great Gatsby. Fuck that book. I hate that book. I think people overplay that book. Like, whatever. That's a book I didn't enjoy reading. I read like half of it and gave up. It's like the other books I had to read in high school. Catcher in the Rye, I really enjoyed. Of Mice and Men was pretty good. I enjoyed that one as well. Yeah. So I don't think I've read any particularly bad books. No, okay, so I did read this one this one book. It was like it's like a book you'd find in an airport. It was like there's a picture of the White House on it, and like it was like on fire, and there was like war damage. It was something like it was named something like very generic. And the moral of the story was these these terrorists had these future technology, and you were following the team of these elite soldiers trying to fight them off. And in the end, it turns out these cyber elite futuristic cyber terrorists were working for this doctor who wanted to be elected president. And in the end, he was nominated by both parties and had a 100% election rate because everyone voted for him. It was really stupid, very bland. Yeah, it was pretty dumb. So I think that's like the worst book I ever read. But like other books, they're all books I wanted to read, so I can't really call them bad. Because it's kind of hard to read a bad book, because once it's bad, you stop reading it because it's no longer entertaining. It's not like a TV show you just leave on an accident, or something you're forced to watch. Because there's difference. I mean, because you'd be forced to read a book, I guess, for school, but I spark noted it. Didn't read it. Didn't care. Oh, I read Neil deGrasse Tyson's book, Astrophysics for Dummies. Also, a complete history of the universe by Stephen Hawking. I read those two books. I won't say they're bad, but they're purely educational, so they're kind of droll. But I still enjoyed them because they were like smart, and I enjoy being smart. Also, in his book, he says if you email him, he'll respond to you. And I emailed him 4 years ago, and Neil deGrasse Tyson had never replied to my email, so fuck him. Tips for aspiring filmmakers. Yes. That's all I say and leave it at that. Yeah, so I think an important thing for any filmmaker is know what film you're making. If you try to make this super grandiose indie art flick, it's probably going to turn out terribly. Make something you want to make and make it yours. Is a key. Is if you just try to copy someone else and like do like you follow someone's method, it's not going to be yours. It's not going to be as good. In saying that, you still want to take inspiration from other people, but you want to make what the Stalker 2.0 but longer. Don't know what that is. But if you look at like movies like The Room, you know, that movie's actually terrible, but it's still fun to watch, you know. I don't know that movie at the top of my head. If you have a very small budget, make a very small movie. Don't try to overstep your limitations. I still have no idea what you're talking about. Favorite musical score from Disney animations. Do you mean like the entire movie's worth of music? Or like a particular song from that score? Because if we're talking like... It's a Russian movie made in the communist era Russia. Have not seen it. Is that Gandhi? This is what Loki's learning lesson turned into. This is what Loki's learning lesson turns into after the main lesson becomes Q&A Loki time. So if we're talking like favorite song from Disney movie, I would say look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities. That's why a bear can rest these. Also, like the ska, not the ska. When King Louis speaking about they want to be a man, he does the Zibidoo Bop Louie, that stuff, whatever that's called. Is that ska? No, it's not ska. Okay. I mean, I did just watch the movie, but that's still my favorite Disney movie. Like, still my favorite Disney animated movie that they made. Not one they bought. I mean, I also watch Hercules. I watched Hercules after I watched The Jungle Book. It's still a good movie, but it's not my favorite. It's terribly unlore friendly to Greek mythology, but you know, music's good, story's good. Meg is still the baddest bitch in Disney, like I stated earlier. she's the baddest bitch. Why do you prefer Russian army marches? Is that just people marching to music, or are there lyrics to it? That's silly. I think you just have like a boner for communist Russia. Purely evil Frollo or just solely degenerating Frollo? So, Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, I'm assuming you're referring to. So, interestingly enough, The Hunchback of Notre Dame play, the musical they made, they make him seem more. They make it seem like he is more degenerating insanity and evilness, and the play is actually really, really good, because instead of Frollo just being this evil, quote unquote evil guy, he's more of a byproduct of society, like the Joker. He's more of a byproduct of his circumstances. Like in the play, Frollo's brother dies, and his son Quasimodo survives. So he takes in Quasimodo as his brother's like orphan, essentially, and raises him and genuinely cares for him. But then in his lust for power and his lust for like the woman Esmeralda, he goes insane and goes crazy and goes mad with power. So I don't know if you know this, but the Hunchback of Notre Dame movie and novel are completely different. Yeah. Also, Bambi's mom is not a human person. I mean, they also make racist movies about black people in the South, but they won't show dead people. You kind of dislike it because the gypsy isn't hanged. Classic Romania. One thing about the movie Quasimodo, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, is in one of the songs, Topsy Turvy Day. In the song Topsy Turvy Day, they say, Topsy Turvy Day is January 6th, and that's my birthday. So that's why I'm so goofy, because I was born on Topsy Turvy Day. On the 6th of January, because it's Topsy Turvy Day. It's so easy to just accept it. Accept that you're all gypsies. I know you're not all gypsies, but when I say that, you guys get mad, and it's funny because I'm 12 and I like poking people. Do you think if countries were like D&D races, Romanians would have be the best thieves because of gypsies? They'd be the best rogue archetype. Well, beggar isn't really a D&D class, is what I'm talking about. I never given money to a beggar because I don't carry cash on me. That's when they whip out the dot or the square thing you could swipe your card on to give money. That's how they get you. I doubt I'll ever be in Bucharest, but I'll be prepared if I ever am. Have I read Southern Victory? No. Do I know of its existence? Maybe. Let me Google it. Is this If the South Won the War? Is it that series of books? Because I watched Alternate History Hub. I watched his video, If the South Won the War. So I basically read the books, question mark. Would the South have ever won? Is it possible the South won the war? If Europe got involved on their side, yes. Besides that, no. No. If they pushed onto Washington and captured it super quickly, maybe. I agree with that. But that's a whole other learning lessons with Loki, is why the South is the way it is, and why what the fuck happened in Reconstruction after Civil War that caused this to happen. Southern apologetics and everything. They have high consciousness. I'm sure that's a reference to a game I didn't play because I like to play fun games. If I want to play an economics simulator, I'll do flipping on RuneScape in the GE. I know it's a reference to Vic 2 because she said Vic 2, ha ha ha. Yeah, he didn't. I don't know who or why this happened, but someone wrapped the Southern plans. Yeah, so the South wanted France and England to get on their side because they were thinking, well, we supply them with cotton for their textile mills, so if we can't make cotton, they are losing money. So they're incentivized to help us kick America's ass, and maybe England wants revenge for, civil Revolutionary War. But then, yeah, Britain had India. France was dying. Was France still revolutionary? Was France still on the downturn in 1866? 1800s? Yes? No. When's French Revolution? 1800s? Yeah, France was still fucked. Whatever. France doesn't care. France was fucking up.
Things for people to say. I was wrong. I need help. And Worcestershire.
Yep. Worcestershire. That's how you say that sauce. Worcestershire. It said as soon as Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, England and France would never join the war anyway, because that made it more about slavery than it was about preservation of the Union. Also, the Emancipation Proclamation was more for destroying the Southern war economy than it was about freeing African Americans. Because up until that point, slaves were treated as contraband and treated as captured assets. They were treated as like if we came across a silo full of grain, we would take that as an asset to the war effort. And because of this, when we captured the slaves, quote unquote, we would release them and they would go back to their farm and still work for the Southern war economy, because we could not take them and free them because they were seen as property still legally. But the Emancipation Proclamation, what that did was made it so, hey, these people aren't products, they're people. Ugh. And because of that, we were allowed to free these slaves we liberated from their masters, and they could not be recaptured and sent back to the plantations they were on to work for the Southern War economy. So that was the main reason why it was signed. Honestly, was not for. There's the whole Scott's Great Snake. That's what I call my penis, even though my name's Chris. It's a joke for the ladies out there. What the fuck am I talking about? Yeah, the South didn't have a navy. The South didn't have the infrastructure to support a war. They didn't have the manufacturing. If you ever want to... Yeah. We destroyed the South's economy, and that's what we won. If you ever want to get in a fight, in a fight in the South, say Grant was a war hero in Atlanta, you'll be shanked on sight. Did I do that? No, of course not. I don't want to die. My uncle lives in Atlanta, Georgia, actually. He's a pilot for Delta. So it's not the South's fault to a degree. It's not their fault. I mean, it is their fault, but it's not really the fault. When we teach American history in American education system, the subject of the Civil War is taught differently depending on where you are in the state, where you are in the country. So I was raised in Ohio, a northern state. So we were taught the Civil War was fought to end slavery. In the South, because I was born in Virginia, and that's where my older brother, he lived in that area, and I had friends there. And I talked to them, and it's like, oh, Civil War, what was it about? They were taught the Civil War was either fought for states' rights, it was a war of northern aggression, or to end slavery. Because we can all agree slavery was bad. But that wasn't the main reason why it was fought, which is true, technically. Yeah, but it's 100% not the war of northern aggression because they fired the first shot in Fort Sumter. But they claim it's a war of northern aggression because the North was removing the Southern way of life, and that was what they were aggressing towards, was removing the Southern culture, whatever. Which it technically, if your culture depends upon you owning slaves and profiting off their work, which it did, that's bad. Sorry to tell you, slavery's bad for you. And then states' rights. Technically, states' rights to own slaves. That's what it boils down to. And if you read the constitutions these states wrote after they seceded, they state slavery as being the main cause of their succession is slavery. However, if I say this to someone who was born in South Carolina and lived there their entire life and dips or whatever, they're going to say I'm wrong and say you're just spouting northern propaganda. In reality, this and this is the reason why. But objectively, the Civil War was not a war to end slavery. It was a war of preservation of the Union. That's what the war was for. It was so the South couldn't secede and the nation would not be broken in twine. That's why it started. That's why Abraham Lincoln declared war, whatever. The South, on the other hand, they seceded to preserve their way of life, to preserve slavery as an institution, to preserve, their lifestyle. And then, originally that's all it was all about preserving the Union and keeping the country whole. Then as the war dragged on, it was more about how are we going to beat the South? How are we going to push them into submission? How are we going to make sure the other nations do not get involved like they want to? So that's when it became about emancipation of the slaves. It became about, essentially. Also, all Confederate statues and all parks named after them were built after the Civil War during the segregation era as a way to It's basically say to the black community, hey, remember when we owned you? You're still second-class citizens. Like, that's why those parks and that's why those statues were made. To a degree. There's also some sense of pride in these people that they fought in war, but there's also that. And that's why so many people want these statues torn down, is because they're statues of traitors. Why would we have statues of traitors? Like, we have, there's military bases named after Confederate generals in the South. But they're also still American, you know. They are American citizens, American history. Ranting when? I've been ranting this entire time. What are you talking about? I'm just scrolling through memes I've already seen. That was, in fact, a ton of that conversation. Watching too much porn. Have you guys seen that video? There's a dude getting. It's not Reddit. Reddit's for normies. This dude's getting like detained in an airport or being searched, and the cops like grabbing his dick, and he's like, "What's this?" And the guy's like, "My dick." He's like, "Oh, sorry." And he's like, "I see." It's not a meme. It's a video. It's pretty funny. DM if possible. No. It's not a meme I saw. It's just a video I remembered. So, anyway, it is now 8:15 p.m. Loki's learning lessons is over. I hope you all enjoyed learning lesson time with Loki-san. Tune in next time for more intellectual conversations about wherever the fuck I feel like it. Wherever you guys feel like it. If you're watching the video, what's up? Please like and subscribe. Comment, whatever people do on YouTube anymore. See you next time. Goodbye.